The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
The ball sends it over to Edward Robles. Goal! Insert name FC! Let's go! Insert name FC!
Alright guys, what is up? It is Hector Flores, host of the Insert Name FC podcast, a member of the Belly Up Sports Media Network. You can find us on all things podcasting on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast fixed from. You'll find us there at Insert Name FC. Also, we have video versions of this podcast. The full video podcast is available on Belly Up's YouTube channel, and then we break down these episodes into more digestible, shorter form videos on our personal YouTube channel at Insert Name FC. Also, you can find the full video version and also these video clips on GoldsTV, That's where you can also find us there. Amazing platform. Go ahead and check it out over there. A lot of great content over there, as well as Belly Up's YouTube channel as well. Lots of great content. As a matter of fact, we started doing this new content that where we mix in personalities from all around Belly Up Sports to give you guys a really good product there. But yeah, also follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, X at Insert Name FC. We're gonna post regularly. Also, shout out to our merchandise store, bonfire.com, Insert Name FC store. Go ahead and check it out. We just dropped a shirt for Harry Kane, who has just won his first trophy. So go ahead and check it out. If you could, please buy the shirt. We worked really hard. Shout out to Harpy, who made the amazing design for that shirt, by the way. Make sure you guys send some love her way, especially if you guys want like some logo redesigns or anything like that. Check up on the X at Sophia Artistic. Once again, at Sophia Artistic, to get some great layout designs, shirt designs, set up your YouTube channel, set up graphics, all this stuff. She does it all for you. She's great. We highly recommend her. She's done a few things for us already for the podcast. So we gave her the shirt design idea, and she made a great anything is possible shirt for Harry Kane. So go ahead and go ahead and purchase it, dude. It's an amazing shirt. But this episode, I'm not gonna lie to you, kind of pissed off. Reason being is that today is Tuesday. I'm recording this on Tuesday. Not obviously today's not Tuesday. When you guys listen to this, it would probably be Thursday or probably past that. Maybe it would be Tuesday at some point. But I'm recording this on Tuesday. Obviously, you guys know we normally record on Fridays. No, not Fridays. On Sundays. Sundays we normally record. And basically, I don't know what happened with this mic. Look, I'm gonna tell y'all some things. Recently, obviously, everybody knows the passing of Robo. My brother moved back in. He has cats, and the cats. No, I'm not gonna say my cats because they're not my cats. But those cats like to wander, and I think thinks that the cats have messed with some of my stuff, and so maybe that was the reason for the audio. But the audio was just really weird, so very off, very low, and just in and out. It was really weird. So I basically had to, and when I was gonna start editing Monday, and when I started seeing that, basically I was like, crap. So unfortunately, when I started realizing that I had to scrap it because I was actually editing the audio and getting everything ready to get this podcast up, fully download, fully completed and have it uploaded and everything like that. Found that out, and so here we are. So it's Tuesday, so basically I'm going to have a long Tuesday and Wednesday because luckily I don't have to record everything. The headlines portion was all, well, I recorded that on Saturday, so essentially, I really just have to. So this episode, if you guys want to know, it's well, if you guys obviously you guys want to know, we have headlines. We're gonna talk about Cody Gakpo. He was facing some controversy for wearing a shirt that says "I belong to Jesus." We'll touch up on that. I will give you guys a heads up. There is going to be some discussions, whether it's not in-depth discussion of religion versus LGBTQ, but I do bring up some of those topics. If it's not a topic that you're really not necessarily fond of, I have no issues if you guys want to skip over it. But it is something that's going to be discussed in here. Talking about MLS Next, they've made some interesting decisions with youth development. Share my thoughts. Do I think this is the right move? And then Real Madrid. That's literally just it. Just Real Madrid. There's a lot of things going on with Real Madrid, so we'll talk about some of the upcoming changes. What happened with Carlo Ancelotti's potential move to Brazil? The anticipation of Xabi Alonso, and some other changes that are probably going to need to be discussed. We then also recap the playing round of Liga MX playoffs and preview the quarterfinals. Now, by the time this episode drops, the first legs have already been played for Liga MX, so hopefully it doesn't hurt too much the predictions. But it is something that's going to be. I'm not going to try to like edit to get ahead of it or anything like that. I'm just not. I'm not going to do that. But especially because when I did it for the last one, it just gave me like it just made me feel like I had to rush a lot, so I didn't like that particularly too much. Um, give you guys players of the week, give you guys some games to watch this coming weekend, and yeah, wrap this show up in a pretty little bow for you. And yeah, I hope that's gonna be a good lengthy episode, but I can't promise you that now just because of all the shenanigans happening. But with all that being said, man, sit back, relax, and enjoy a really good episode. So we'll go ahead and take a break and then go right into headlines.
Let me tell you guys about Belly Up Sports. Belly Up Sports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. Belly Up Sports is the premier, not your average website. All right, guys, headlines. We're going to kick things off with Cody Gakpo. So if you guys don't know, or you guys haven't been keeping up with the Premier League for some weird reason, Liverpool beat Tottenham to clinch the Premier League title for this year, so they are officially Premier League champions. And Cody Gakpo, I believe, scored a goal in that game where he removes his jersey and unveils a shirt that says, "I belong to Jesus" on the shirt. Which is in some way an homage to Ricardo Kaká, which he did. I mean, Ricardo Kaká was very well known for his faith. And I believe when AC Milan won the Champions League against Liverpool, he wore a very similar shirt to that. I think it was almost the same exact shirt, to be honest. I can't really tell you, but it's something that's very common, and obviously, religion is a big thing in this game in general. Of all things, of cultures and all that, religion does take effect into that aspect. Well, Gakpo's facing a potential reprimand for wearing that shirt. And it goes under Law 4 of International Football Association Board's laws of the game, where players are strictly prohibited from showcasing any political, religious, or personal messages on their clothing. And this is kind of the part from the rule book. Equipment must not have any political, religious, or personal slogans, statements, or images. Players must not reveal undergarments that show political, religious, personal slogans, statements, or images, or advertising other than the manufacturer's logo. For any offense, the player and or team will be sanctioned by the competition organizer, National Football Association, or by FIFA. So, obviously, this comes in. So it's up to the Premier League on how they're going to deal with this situation. And I'm going to be honest with you, this is a very touchy subject. I think, obviously, religion, all the things that was addressed in that rule are in general just touchy subjects. Politics is a very touchy subject. Religion, very touchy subject. Um, but like if you think about personal slogans, I mean, how's that any different from when a player, for instance, when Maradona passed away, a lot of players, wore shirts in honor of Diego Maradona. How come there was no reprimand from those guys? Because I mean, Messi was literally wearing a jersey of another team when he paid homage to Diego Maradona. I'm not here trying to tell you that one is worse than the other, and frankly, I don't even think that anyone should be reprimanded for this, and by any means. But and then also I think for Premier League, it's gonna just not be a good look for them if the Premier League does choose to punish uh, Gakpo. And the reason why I say that is because there has already been kind of a discussion done already early in this season, and it goes back to when the Premier League was doing something for Pride, where if you guys don't remember, players were given rainbow laces for their boots and then captains were wearing a rainbow armband. I believe that was it for as far as anything else. Um, and there was players that either refused to wear the rainbow captain's armband, refused to wear the rainbow laces, even some refusing to wear a rainbow warm up top, warm up jacket, and then I believe one of the captain Mark Gehi I think he wrote I love Jesus and Jesus loves you on it, and was also facing reprimand for it. The reason why I'm saying that this is all just a touchy subject in general is because um and I don't necessarily agree with it. I'm just gonna be very transparent with y'all. I don't necessarily agree with this, but this is going to be a valid argument. Well, not a valid. It's going to be an argument that's used, and that's obviously you're gonna allow the promotion of gay pride and homosexuality and LGBTQ. You're gonna allow that, but you're not going to allow people to express their faith. So we can express people's individualities and where they feel in belonging, but not when it's in a religious setting. Um, and I think that is kind of where FIFA is going to start kind of be in some essence kind of twiddling in a really really narrow line here that it's going to anger a lot of people. It just is because if you're telling Gakpo is going to get fined for wearing a shirt that says "I belong to Jesus," um, and punish players for doing, and I mean obviously Margehi was given I don't know if he was punished. I don't think he was punished or anything, but he was given warnings about doing that, writing "I love Jesus" or "Jesus loves you" on the captain's armband. Um, it just there's gonna be those people that are going to be very annoyed, are going to talk about how, oh, this is okay, but not, but God and religion is not. Um, it's it's a slippery slope. It's really what it's gonna be. Um, and I think it's gonna be interesting as things transpire. I don't think nothing else is gonna come of this, to be honest with you, but I do think that it's gonna be interesting how the Premier League responds to this issue, because if they do choose to if they do give like some sort of fine or something for Cody Gakpo for showing his faith, showing, obviously in a big moment for him, right? Winning the Premier League, clinching the Premier League title. And, he takes off his shirt, has the shirt that says "I belong to Jesus." And and once again, in a moment where, he feels very blessed. He feels that, if it wasn't for, Jesus and his Lord and Savior, he, wouldn't be in this whole he wouldn't be where he is if it wasn't for his faith. And for you to then tell the guy like, hey, you can't be wearing that. And then obviously must have grown up a Ricardo Kaká fan because obviously he copied something that Kaká has done, and also as far as I know, any reprimanding came from Ricardo Kaká wearing that shirt. And once again, everyone knew that Ricardo Kaká was very strong in his faith. So, and like, I'll be honest with you, it hasn't been till I started doing this podcast that I learned about this rule about international football, that you're not allowed to wear any religious statements or imagery, you know, on your equipment, and which is it's crazy to think because, like I said, religion is a big part of people's lives, a lot of, obviously, and I know that they're not saying like praying. They're not talking about praying, right? Obviously, they're talking about things on your equipment. And I mean, I'm sure I've seen guys that, draw crosses on their wrist tape. I've seen players that, uh, that plays the Star of David on their cleat, on their cleat. And then you want to talk about political. I mean, I don't think it's considered political by any means, but I mean, like, what about the players that wear flags? That have like something of their nation's flag on their gear. I know that a lot of players, when they get their cleats customized, they put their name and also the country that they represent. Would that be considered a political statement, a political image? Because it's, another country. I'm just stirring the pot. I'm not being more specific. I'm not trying to like say what violates what, but the question, I think now, this is just a massive gray area. To be honest with you, because you're talking about personal slogans and statements, and maybe there's some people out there that would view anything that's pro LGBTQ being personal slogans and statements and images that maybe, according to these laws from FIFA, that this is also against the rules. I'm not saying that it is, and frankly, I don't think I don't think it matters. I think it's perfectly fine to do the whole wearing the rainbow armbands, wearing the the laces, all those things. And I mean, I wouldn't be against a player if they choose to, outside of that specific period that the English Premier League was doing uh to promote pride, but like even outside of, I like, and I think it's like kind of similar to the NFL, when during I believe October, players are allowed to wear pink equipment for breast cancer awareness. And then a player got fined because he decided to wear pink not during that month. And obviously, that became a very conflicting thing. As a matter of fact, I believe the NFL doesn't do this anymore, as a matter of fact. But yeah, and the player, the reason, and then they started this whole, and I think that kind of started this whole thing about my cause, my cleats, which is another thing that NFL now, this new initiative that the NFL does, which is during a specific time period, I think maybe a 2 week span, where players are allowed to wear cleats that are not in accordance with the color scheme of their team, because obviously they wear these cleats that are customized, showcasing a specific charity that they support, an organization that they support, or just something that their cause, what they want to represent, be put on these cleats for them. And then they auction those cleats, and then obviously those proceeds go to the charity of that player's choosing. And so, and when it's back to regular scheduled programming, if a player is seen to be wearing cleats that are not within the confines of their color scheme, or just black and white, they get hit with fines. Like I was saying, this is not important things, but obviously the whole personal message and slogan is what I was trying to, at least try to point out. But I think it obviously it's not just a soccer thing. It's obviously clearly a thing that happens across the world. Um, I'm all for all the promotions when it comes to LGBTQ and just normal, just overall just human rights, and showing that this game is welcoming and open to everyone from all facets of the world. Doesn't matter what your preferences are, what your religion is. Like, it should be a welcoming environment. I know that that's not necessarily the constant, but that's at least the objective of why we call this the beautiful game, because of the fact that you have people from all over the world being able to play this game and agree upon this game, where this game becomes a universal language that you don't even have to speak the same language, but you know how to play the game. And I think that that's important to let it be known that this is open to everyone, that all is welcome in this kind of environment. And I think that it's cool that we're able to have this period to let these people know from the LGBTQ community that they are welcomed here. They are welcome to support. Like, they don't need to feel that they had to hide from it. Like, everyone's a sports fan. Anyone can be a sports fan at the end of the day. But I think at the same time, like, you have to also, I don't want to say accommodate, because I don't think that's the wrong word, but match that same energy to the other things, because once again, like I say, open to all, and I mean that. And so, for people that are religious, and this goes back to the whole thing, we can disagree, and that's perfectly fine, but we can coexist at the end of the day. And I understand that that's kind of some of the things that I know some people that tend to be religious don't necessarily agree upon certain things, and trust me, I've seen the comments. I've seen the comments on any pro team's LGBTQ promotion. I've Trust me, I've seen them. I know I know what they're saying. And you're gonna have those people, unfortunately. It's just kind of just what happens, and I wish it wasn't the case, but that's the world we live in right now. Um, Maybe there can be a change at one point. Once again, change is change isn't as fast as what you want it to be, and that's the reality. But like I said, where I was coming back to this is just the fact that if you're going to be able to be a welcoming space for people of all preferences, at the same time, I feel like you have to also make this a safe space for people of religious backgrounds. I think I always think about that PSG player who refused to play a PSG match because he didn't want to have a rainbow number on his back. Yes, it may sound crazy to everyone else, but to him, that he just doesn't agree with it. And I think, like I said, we can agree to disagree, and I think that that's an important part. Um, I mean, to me, I just look at it as in this context, I look at it as it's just a number. Like, I don't. It doesn't mean that I'm betraying anything, or like, if I was a religious person, like, which I'm not really that great of a religious person, but what I'm saying is, I don't necessarily think that this wearing a rainbow number is necessarily you're betraying your religion, especially even if you're depending on what your faith is. But I know that there's some people that are just won't budge, and just a rainbow number in general. Um, it's just that's the line that they cannot cross, and I totally get that in some aspect. Um, and I think that's the other side. You have to also see the other side of it. And I think that this is where you're gonna see what the other side feels, because I think that they're gonna bring out that art, and I guarantee you, there's probably comments. As a matter of fact, when I was reading the article that was covering this story, there was comments literally on that article that were literally saying, "So you're gonna promote, the LGBTQ stuff, but you can't promote religion." And so I trust, and this is me just trying to as censor as humanly possible, because there was some choice words that I'm not going to share on here. But you can thank me, Kelsey, on that part. But yeah, it's unfortunate. I think it's honestly, I think it's weird that, like, religion, something as simple as wearing a shirt that says "I belong to Jesus," it doesn't seem harmful to me. But like, once again, it's perspective. Maybe somebody that sees someone wearing a shirt that says "I belong to Jesus" is offensive to them. You really don't know. But at the same time, like, you can't do one thing and then not do something else. Like, I feel like you have to find some sort of middle ground. And I think, when you have a period where you can support uh individuality, I think you need to be able to also, eh, you know, uh, allow people to express their religion. And I mean, it's not like Gakpo wasn't doing anything that I don't think anyone else would have done in that moment if they would have had "I belong to Jesus." I mean, was there any reprimand for when players were showing support to Luis Diaz when his father was kidnapped? Was someone people had shirts that were showing their support for Luis Diaz. Um, did FIFA punish Christian Pulisic for having the shirt? When he showed his shirt and it said "Man in the Mirror," taking a jab to Memo Ochoa. And was he reprimanded for that? And if that's the case, then because personal slogan. Like, if you're gonna pull this law, then enforce it. But enforce it to everything if that's the case. But if you're just gonna pick and choose when you want to choose this thing, I think it's ridiculous. And so, um, I don't see anything wrong with this. I don't see anything wrong with the "I belong to Jesus" shirt. I don't see anything wrong with wearing rainbow laces. I don't see anything wrong with wearing a rainbow captain's armband. You know, once again, this is why this is the beautiful game. Is all facets of the world is welcome to this. And so, yeah, I can. I'm sure maybe we'll probably not hear anything after this. I'm sure like Premier League is probably gonna want to axe this as soon as humanly possible because it will open a can of worms for sure, um, for them. So I expect nothing else to come from this. I expect Gakpo not to face any punishment. I probably would expect Gakpo to still be wearing the "I belong to Jesus" shirt. So and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But all right. Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast, here to tell you guys about Canada Dips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canada Dip CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BELLYUP20 at CanadaDipCBD.com. Once again, BELLYUP20 at CanadaDipCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Canada Dips for being a great partner of Belly Up Sports. The next headline, MLS Next. So, I'm going to try to do my best here because also I got the Dynamo game on right now. They're playing LAFC right now. They're down 1-0, so maybe I should be focusing on doing this more so than that. But MLS Next, man. So MLS Next, they're doing some changes with the youth levels. They're doing something interesting, something that seems kind of off, kind of weird to everybody. I think the intent is there, but it's just you're losing people with a certain thing, and we'll get to that. I'll explain to. So essentially, MLS Next has decided that they will be removing score lines, wins, and losses for the U13 and U14 levels. So that means that there's no scoreboard. No one's keeping score unless you're the coach and the players and a parent and basically anybody that could probably count how many goals they scored and if they won the game or not. So, but the reason behind it, why is and it is Luis Robles, I believe, is like the director of youth development for MLS Next. The reason behind it is because it's essentially supposed to focus on player development, which is what the academies are really there for, especially those lower age groups, is to gain more development as a player. And apparently this whole no score line, no wins, no losses thing, it is a common practice in Germany and England. Now, I can't tell you fully how it works over there on at that end, because once again, I'm not German and I'm not English, and I haven't watched a German and English academy game. But I have worked in the MLS Academy. I worked for the Houston Dynamo Academy, so I actually know kind of a little bit how those games go. Um, but I think I think the intention is there. I think you're just losing a lot of people with the whole not keeping score and not tracking wins and losses. But essentially, what MLS Next is their aim is to focus on player development. Look at how they're performing, not so much the end result. Which in reality, I think that's what the academy really is supposed to matter is, these coach, especially when these coaches from the higher level coaches, I don't think they necessarily care about if the U13 team is the best U13 team. They want to know about certain X player, see how they're developing. Is there any chance that this kid who is right now a U13 player, may push up to U14 or maybe even to U16? I don't think U15 is now a thing anymore on MLS Next. I think it's U16 and U18 now. But I think and in those levels, U16, U18, that's when they're like, all right, now these games kind of, now we got to give you pressure. And I think that, but I think the whole not keeping score thing, I think what it's for me, I don't know if U13, U14 is those levels. I think for younger age groups, yes, let's get them to just play. Let's get them to just have fun with the ball, correlate with fun and game. Have them try some things that they saw on YouTube, which is kind of sums up me and Edward whenever we were playing as kids. We would see Ronaldinho do this move with his, on YouTube. We saw Ronaldo do this move, Fat Ronaldo, not Cristiano Ronaldo, do this move on YouTube, and then we're like, oh, we got to do it. And obviously, as we got older, then Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, and Zlatan came to be, and then that's when we were like, oh man, let's see let's see if I can if I can do this move, if I can do that move. It was having fun with the ball, but at the same time, aspiring to be like a certain player. Obviously, it didn't work out for us, but I think that essentially at the youth levels, the early levels, I think they're right. And I think the thing is with me with U13, U14, I think at that point, at that age, you want to win. You're competitive, and I think as far as people saying that it's more we should be focused more on the player development, especially in those ages. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're developing your players well, if you're developing good players with good technical ability, with good athleticism, the wins and losses will correlate that development in some retrospect. I'm not saying that, oh, your team is so well developed they should beat everybody. I mean, some things happen. Game is game at the end of the day. But I think I think that the thing that would be weird is when these guys go from in a scenario where they don't keep score, and it doesn't matter if you win or lose, to then go into U16 where now you're playing in these high pressure tournaments, because I believe U16, U18 plays in a Generation Adidas Cup. So you're playing these tournaments where it's win or you're not getting anything, right? Like, and the cool thing about Generation Adidas Cup, which I believe it's done now. Yeah, it's been way done. It was in April. The cool thing about Generation Adidas Cup is that you get to play against academies from not only MLS but also from outside the world. Like, you could see, like, go against some of the European academies, some of the academies from South America, Mexico. So you want to compete with those guys. You want to be at your best level. And I think that obviously I think the importance is development. And I think the people are gonna still track scores. People are gonna still are still gonna do that. I think even though MLS Next is kind of saying this is how it's going to be. And I think they're talking about even switching it from 11v11 for 9v11 in the younger levels. Which, I mean, I think is perfectly fine. Make the field smaller, learn how to play in smaller spaces, things like everything kind of has a purpose in its own way and right. But I think, as far as saying that, oh, we're not gonna keep track of score, we're not gonna keep track of record. Like you may not be, but parents are gonna, players are gonna, coaches are gonna, because at the end of the day, you're especially when you're talking about MLS academies, which probably are the ones that especially MLS academies where they basically get all the best players in that area and sometimes outside of that area, um, to bring in their players and develop a team that can go out there and win games and win tournaments. Once again, if you have a good developed academy, with players that are getting developed, hitting the target points for their development, whether it's physical or technical, like the correlation of them winning is it's going to connect. There's going to be a connection. There is a correlation at the end of the day. Like if your academy, if you're not really good at prioritizing technical ability, you're probably not going to be really sound when it comes down to making good passes and making strong finishes at the end of the day. At the same time, maybe if you focus too much on technical ability, not too much on athleticism, yeah, you have guys that can move the ball, but probably get worn out pretty quickly, especially the amount of games that these kids play within a short time span. I mean, some of these kids are playing back-to-back games. And Generation D is prime example. You're playing back-to-back games, daily. You're playing like 3 games. 3 games, take a day a break, and then you go back into playing consecutive games again. And I mean, like for the U13, U14 level, I believe they play 30-minute halves, but I mean, I remember there's a tournament that U13 and U14 plays in Kansas City. I forgot what the tournament was called, but yeah, so they have a tournament over there, and those kids are playing 2 games a day. So it gets pretty, if you're not fit, it's gonna be a rough stretch of games for you. So I think that's something that once again, you need to find that good mix, that correlation of how to get these guys fit, get your players fit, but at the same time, make sure they're working on their technical abilities, being able to be the best in their position possible. And I think MLS Next, with what they're partnering with, to me, that is the more interesting part of the story. The whole removing scorelines, I think, to be honest, is just a very irrelevant thing to this conversation. I don't think keeping track of score and wins and losses affects too much of the player's development. I think at the end of the day, especially if these kids are the reason why these kids are coming to these MLS academies or accepting these opportunities to go to these MLS academies or striving to be playing for these MLS academies is because they want to win. They want to win, they want to win stuff. And the correlation for them is if I win with these teams and I keep moving up age groups, I'm going to eventually become a professional player. And so for them, performing and winning will dictate that they're on the right track. And once again, player development, and that's also another aspect of it. If you're playing, especially when you're playing in MLS academies, you feel that those resources are far much better than any other, regular club, local club that's in the disposal. Like for instance, here in Houston, you have academy, you have a club teams like GFI, Rise Soccer. You have Houstonians. There's a lot of youth clubs, which once again, a lot of these guys end up, especially their best players, they end up getting plucked out from the Houston Dynamos Youth Academy, and they so that's kind of there's an importance to those clubs because you're not going to be able to find every guy, and sometimes these MLS academies they miss some kids maybe because maybe the kid's not as fit as they were hoping for. Maybe he's not as technically sound. They go play for a GFI, get some technical ability, increase their athleticism, and all of a sudden that Houston Dynamo probably like, hey, this kid's pretty good. Let's get him our way. So there's definitely a value to these club teams, and I think that honestly, like even though we're talking about player development as far as like MLS Next goes, I think that that's another thing that they need to start talking about because, you know, I will say, as far as from what I've heard from these other clubs, as from the youth sector, they don't tend to like too much the MLS Academy like plucks their best player. And I think that MLS Next needs to figure out some sort of incentive program where, hey, if your club team got as a player here and that player goes pro, you're getting like some sort of discovery, something. I don't know what, but I'm just saying like there should be an incentive for them because I mean obviously you're taking their best player in some cases, not saying all cases, but you're in some case taking their best player for them to go play, and they're gonna eventually have to play against them. Because obviously you play friendlies and all that, and some of these, like I believe GFI is also considered part of MLS Next. I think Rise is also part of MLS Next. So these guys have to end up playing. They have to go up against their former player, and you know, so there needs to be some sort of incentive program for these youth clubs because them they have to go back out there and go find another player, and I think that I think it's important to make sure that these club teams I don't want to say farm teams. It sounds terrible when I say it like that, but they kind of are. But these farm teams, there needs to be an incentive for them to keep going, and keep doing what they're doing. Uh, Besides just overall just trying to promote soccer at the youth levels. Um, there needs to be something for them to feel like validated for what they've been doing, and that's the whole point of that conversation. But anyways, Taka. So this is what MLS Next who they're working with is Taka. Taka is an Irish consulting group. It's their whole thing is analyzing players, like looking through game film and grading performances off that film. Uh, and it's not like some just regular like mathematician that's just looking at statistics. Like they're generally having like coaches from different levels, whether it's professional, amateur, even youth level coaches come in and they study the film. They study the film of these players and they get kind of a good estimate of what this kid could bring. They grade them. Because I mean, like, what is if you were to say like a kid had 1 out of 12, so out of 12 dribbles, he only had one successful dribble, dribble against an opponent. You know, on paper, when you see 1 to 12, that's like he's probably not that efficient. But if you have someone that's actually studying the film and seeing what the kid is doing, maybe there's something in his game, maybe there was some good ideas. What did he do in that one successful dribble that was so different from the others? And was it a progression, or was it a was it or was he was it there a digression? Also, I don't know if I was using those right words, but was it him or was it the defender? What was the reason behind that stat? And I think essentially that's what Taka is doing. Taka is there to evaluate these players, and is like once again, it's not some guy, some nerd, looking at numbers on a screen. It's somebody that understands film, understands how to analyze that film, understands player mentality, identity profile, all those things. Those are who's looking after it, and I think that could be a great asset. As a matter of fact, Premier League clubs use Taka for this specifically. Also probably for the youth levels, but maybe even in that professional level to help evaluate. You know, is the team performing well? Is there things that they can improve on? What's the real story behind the statistics? And I think that once again, if you're focusing more on player development, because once again, stats are cool and all, like that, that's all fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, you gotta see what the kids do on the field. You gotta the eye test is at the end of the day is still going to be more prevalent, especially in this game, over a statistic. And it's great that MLS Next has been able to partner up with this kind of group like Taka to help more and more evaluate the game. Because once again, it is just their next way to aim to improve player development. How do you improve ideology? How do you improve the roadmap that is from academy to professional? Because I think that there's still a lot of flaws in MLS youth systems. I think there's still a lot of flaws in just U.S. soccer development as a whole. Obviously, pay to play is still going to be something that is going to be pushed by everybody. Look, like I said, I don't know. I know it's definitely something that needs to be addressed. I just don't think it's the end all be all. Like, I don't think that that's going to be like, oh, pay to play is gone. All of a sudden, U.S. soccer is now the standard when it comes to football. It's not that. It's a cultural thing. At the end of the day, in this country, you have soccer is just not the first choice. It's just not, especially and people are gonna say, and I kind of don't like using pay to play because club baseball is a thing. Club, AAU is very prevalent, like, to the point where you know college scouts don't even care what you do in high school. They care about what you do in AAU, which is kind of similar to club, if you will, for basketball. So like um more and more like more and more people are so like pay to play is very much a thing in America. It's a very American thing. At the end of the day, it's just who's willing to spend the money. And I'm sure that, like, kind of similar to, I know, as far as I know from my time at the Houston Dynamo, there's scholarships. Like, there are scholarships that are offered to some players. I know that's not all of them, but some players do get some sort of scholarship opportunity where the academy ends up covering the fees, the academy fees. But I just don't know what that percentage is. I'm assuming it's not a high percentage. And I think that there's more things that need to be there's other things in the academy system that needs to be addressed. I just don't think that the solution is pay to play. At the end of the day, it's a cultural thing. Like when soccer stops becoming an afterthought for most people, um, you know, that's where the real core of when youth soccer is gonna get better is when this is not the last option. Like, kids at the end of the day are gonna pick football. They're gonna pick basketball. They're gonna pick baseball. Um, Soccer and hockey and baseball probably are right now like the sports that are maybe not the top priority for a kid's development. I mean, it's an unfortunate reality, but that's just the way it is. And then for those kids that do like soccer, yes, pay to play does harm those kids. But I've seen a lot, with the Houston Dynamo, I've seen a lot of kids that come from where I grew up. And I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. There's not a lot of rich people where I grew up at. So, like, I mean, there's people that sacrifice. I mean, there are parents out there that are working class that they see that this is a good opportunity for the kid, and they just are willing to pay those academy fees for the sake of their kid. But I mean, I know that's not all. I know that's not all cases. I know that there are some kids that are just not there's parents that are just not in that situation where they could just do this for them. And those are the kids that do get those scholarship opportunities. But yeah, I think as far as like focusing on player development, it is right. But I think it's got to be at the younger levels. I think it's more so getting in that U6, U7 level, like trying to get these kids to have fun with the ball, just in general, just having fun, just connecting with the ball and fun, connecting, you know. I want to be that guy. I want to, watch videos on, you know, I want to watch, and I mean, obviously, overseas players cool. Like, I want to do what Lamine Yamal does, cool, but like, get these kids to be like, I want to do what Griffin Dorsey does. I want to see, I want to move like Denny Bouanga does. Like, those are, kind of talk about the league itself as well, because that's a whole other issue as well. There's a lot of people that like soccer in this country, but there's not a lot of people that like MLS. And say what you want, but like in most other countries, like hell, even El Salvador, like people still love like the Salvadoran league is still the more watched league, and then but people still like Barcelona, Real Madrid, and the Premier League and any other club in the world, but like their passion is more towards the Salvadoran league, and I think that is a problem here is that everyone likes the Premier League, everyone likes La Liga, but not everybody likes Major League Soccer. And I totally get it. I get that aspect, but this is your local league. And you hear people, the fans from over there like support your local club. Just support your local club. That like there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with supporting your local club. Like I mean, I like obviously I support Houston Dynamo. I mean, I identify as a Madrista, but you know, I support my local club. But and that's another thing. Another thing, I don't necessarily think like that's more of a cultural thing. It's not a youth development thing. But as far as youth development, I think that this is an asset. This is a good asset. And I hope this is a step in the right direction. Because in the reality, the U.S. isn't a powerhouse, and it's gonna not be a powerhouse for a good while. And as a matter of fact, this is a quote from Luis Robles. The last time I checked, the United States has not won the World Cup. Last time I checked, Major League Soccer is still not the top league in the world. So it seems like there's space to be curious, be creative, and tinker a little bit. Basically, and it's funny because I remember when I was talking to Jose, well, when I was on Goals TV, we were talking about Atlanta United situation, and it reminds me of the Houston Dynamo because they did like a massive like a massive overhaul. They got rid of a lot of players out of that locker room. At one point, I think the year before I got there, they actually said that locker room was very toxic, for the Houston Dynamo, and obviously they cleaned house. They bring in guys like Artur, Franco Escobar. They bring in Hector Herrera. Um, bring in guys from winning cultures, MLS cultures, but winning cultures. They bring them into that locker room, and it became a very healthy locker room, a very positive locker room. But not only that, but they also got rid of a lot of employees that were just stuck in the ways of the old regime. And because they were just like, well, this is how we used to do it, blah blah blah. And when I came in with the academy, I heard that so much, and it was to the point where it was starting to piss me off. I hated hearing people like, well, this is how we used to do it. Well, this is how we used to do it. And it was like things that, because I had these, like when I was when I was the equipment manager for the academy, I had all these ideas that I wanted to do to make the academy better. And I even talked to like at that time, the head equipment manager. I'm not gonna say any names, but the head equipment manager was like, oh, I'm thinking about, I would like to do this. Like I was talking about like, oh, can we get tag, because like I was like, I'll give you like a small example, small example. I don't think it's like very like detrimental to anything to the Houston Dynamo, but uh, you know, I noticed a lot of the kids like they had they had like the Houston Dynamo backpack, the Adidas backpack, um, but there was nothing on the backpack that would differentiate them from another backpack because these guys would come in with these backpacks to every game. We'd and when because obviously and some of them didn't have like their shin guards with them when they're about to get subbed in, and they have to like sprint into over to find their backpack and get their shin guards, and I thought that was really kind of weird. And funny enough, the U14 team, one of the parents actually got the kids' names uh stowed on, like had like em- embroidered like their names on their backpack. So the U14 team was the only team that had like something to be able to differentiate whose bag was whose. And I mean, some kids did some things. They like put in like a little special, like a little keychain to like to on the zipper, so they were like, "Oh, this is my backpack," things like that. So I remember I went up to the head equipment manager and I was like, "Hey, like, can how much would it cost to just get bag tags for all the kids? Like, if I gave you like the list of all the academy players, and you just how much would it cost? Like, because I also used to intern for Rice University, and I remember they made these really cheap, not nothing too crazy. I wasn't gonna make anything like amazing like that or anything like that, but they were able to make these little like bag tags, that had like the team logo and all that, and had the player's name on it. And I was asking him like, how much would it cost? I know it's gonna be a lot because obviously I gotta get like tags for X amount of players, and then obviously if I'm getting it for them, I gotta get it for the coaches. And I remember I said this, and he kind of looked at me like, "Bro, you're grasping at straws here. No one's gonna approve that." And it to me was like, it's one little thing that I think that it's gonna do a lot of. I think it was like this one little thing that I felt was gonna be helpful enough for them, and but at the same time not too expensive. And I was like, F it, like if you want, just give me like blank tags with like the Dynamo logo, and I'll write their names on it if I have to do, if that's what I have to do, or get a label like a transparent label maker, like whatever I needed. I just need this because it clearly just it's not a good look. That's the thing that I didn't like. It wasn't a good look that we had all these backpacks that just these kids had to like go through, and they had to go through other people's backpacks because sometimes they didn't know that was their backpack. So it was just not a good look in general. And so it did bother me. And like I remember, so the head equipment manager basically just told me kind of brush it off. So I was like, you know what? I don't really have to talk to him. Let me talk to my admin, see if they can figure something out. And she's just like, yeah, we really don't do that here. And I was like, all right, I don't care. At that point, I was just like very depleted. But it was just, that's like one example. And I remember there was one time they were trying to tell me about, they were asking me like, oh, how do I want to do laundry? I was like, well, I just bought a whole, I just ordered in a bunch of laundry loops. And they're like, oh, normally did this. Like we just had like laundry bags. And I was like, yeah, but there's not enough laundry bags. And they are laundry bags, they're not the same, like they weren't the same color. So it just looks off, and they don't look the same. And they're like, "Well, that's the ones we always use." And I was like, "Yeah, but it just doesn't look good." And then plus, like I was like, when you put them in the washing machine, it loosens. It just, and then they get the laundry just goes out. Then it just leads to a whole other can of worms. I was like, I just want to use these loops. It's just easier that way. If anything, the sock is the only thing that I'm gonna have to worry about. And they're like, well, we always did this. And I was like, and then that's when I kind of went in. I was like, hey, just letting you know. Like, I was like, I get that this is how y'all used to do it, but y'all sucked. So whatever y'all used to do didn't work. So I was like, how about I do this? And if it works, cool. If it doesn't, we can go back to the way it was. But I'm gonna do this. And I felt like it worked out better. As a matter of fact, I feel maybe they still use those laundry loops. I don't know. I'm not there anymore. They fired me. But it's little things like that, like just people just stuck in their ways. And the reason why I say like, obviously what Luis Robles is saying, like, U.S. is not a World Cup contender. U.S. hasn't won a World Cup. Major League Soccer is not a top league in the world. So if whatever you have been doing hasn't been working, like, you're in a position where you can try something different and see if it works. And I think now the whole, like, once again, the whole removing score lines and wins and losses for the U13, U14. Yeah, you lost me on there, but this addition of Taka, like, I think that this is going to be interesting. I can't wait to see how it works. I can't wait to see it if it does correlate to more academy players getting pushed up with the first teams, because that's where it's gonna be that should lead to that. It should lead to more young players, more like more Caven Sullivans, more I can't think of any more academy players. Sebastian Rodriguez is more. David Garcia is that these guys aren't just playing MLS Next Pro. They're now playing with the first team. So that's what we need to start seeing. We need to see that. So if Taka can help us bridge that gap even closer between MLS Next to Major League Soccer, that's to me, that's when you can praise Luis Robles for taking this risk. Maybe some people right now don't see the vision. Like I said, I don't agree with the whole not keeping track of scores. I think at the end of the day, you want kids to be competitive. You want kids to want to compete and want to win. And I think that that's also an important part of their development as a professional player. But I get the aspect of wanting to focus more on player development, making it that, making sure that they are getting the proper training to become better players. And so I think that's an important part. But I will say, there's going to be somebody on that bench that's going to keep track of the score. There's going to be somebody that's on the bench that's going to keep track of the record. There's going to be a parent that's going to do these things as well. So it like as much as Luis Robles is preaching that we're not going to keep track of scores, someone's going to keep track of the score. That's just, as a matter of fact, I would have been keeping track of the score because I wanted to know if we won or not. So, and once again, it goes back to that there's just kids that are going to compete. These kids are the best players from across all the academies in that local area. They came into that academy because they wanted to play with the best players and win competitions. Point blank, period, nothing else between. And that's what they want. So they want to keep track of the score. They want to keep track of the wins and losses because they want to know, am I the best academy at that age group? So so that's where I conflict with on this matter. I think MLS Next, I give them props for trying something different, and it's not like it's too different because, like, once again, this is something that's common in Germany and England. Now, what level of Germany and England, I can't tell you, but it is a common practice in Germany and England. So, Germany, for those of you who don't know, that Germany, when they lost the World Cup final in 2002, Germany essentially started to implement a goal, an object. Was it 2002? I don't know. After one certain World Cup, they implemented a strategy where they're going to restructure their league, restructure everything to aim towards developing the best possible German players to win a World Cup, which it did. That result ended with a 2014 World Cup title for Germany. So it is a matter of fact, it did work, and I've said this plenty of times. And one of the things I think they did do in the Bundesliga was that you needed to have a certain number of German players on your roster. Like you obviously get international players, but you had to have a good percentage of German players on your roster. And so, which is something that I've said I want to see MLS implement more, is getting enforcing more that every team needs to have a certain percentage of American players. Or Canadian players, depending, especially if you're some of the Canadian teams, but there has to be a certain percentage of homegrown players. I think I'll use that word, homegrown players. You have a certain percentage of homegrown players. Obviously, I would prefer it to be American players because obviously, and I think at the end of the day, MLS does have MLS and U.S. soccer. There's just no real connection there. Because to be honest, in my opinion, the league needs to be able to. It has an obligation to the federation. So MLS has an obligation to U.S. soccer to develop players and put them through their ranking, through their hierarchy of all the youth levels up to the senior level. So I think that should be a correlation with the league and the national team. Obviously, that's not going on right now, and hopefully Taka doesn't. Hopefully, Taka is the solution to it all. But all right, that's enough of MLS Next talk. The final headline.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at righteousfelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
Real Madrid. So a lot has happened with Real Madrid. A lot has been going on with Real Madrid. So obviously, first things first, Real Madrid made it known that they will be moving on from Carlo Ancelotti. But right now, they're playing some weird game of chicken because Carlo Ancelotti is essentially set to become Brazil's next coach. But the move hasn't happened yet. Brazil essentially wants Carlo Ancelotti to start in June. To sign. They were meeting in London for him to sign the contract. Ancelotti did not sign the contract because essentially they wanted him to start in June, because I believe they have 2 important international games in June, in June. Ancelotti wants to start in August, obviously to finish out the year. But the funny thing is that he wants, essentially, Ancelotti wants Real Madrid to pay him $4 million to leave, because obviously he's still under contract till 2026, and Real Madrid is hoping that Ancelotti just leaves so they don't have to pay him. I think they would have to pay him like $4 million for him to bow out of his contract. So there's the chicken there, but as far as I know, that's where they're hoping for. Now, there is another thing that's kind of preventing Carlo Ancelotti to join Brazil, and that is because, as well as Brazil, the Saudi League is actually looming. As a matter of fact, Al Hilal is prepared to offer him $50 million a year to be the manager of Al Hilal over in the Saudi Pro League, which I believe this is kind of a strategy where Al Hilal is also trying to lure Vinicius Jr. Basically to get Vinicius Jr. to Al Hilal by bringing in Carlo Ancelotti. Like I said, I've already talked about this whole Vinicius thing. Like, I don't necessarily believe he's gonna leave Real Madrid. I don't think he's gonna leave Real Madrid just yet. I mean, I'm sure the bag might be enticing for him, but I think he's set to sign actually, as a matter of fact, I believe he signed an extension for Real Madrid, so that fee is just about to get more expensive for Al Hilal. I'm sure they have the money for it, but I think at the end of the day, I think Vinicius Jr. just wants to stay put at Real Madrid. I think he might spend his whole career at Real Madrid, unless he leaves when he gets older to go back to Flamengo. But yeah, so Madrid is hoping that Ancelotti just takes a new job and they don't have to pay him that $4 million. And I think Ancelotti is kind of like, hey, can you just pay me my $4 million so I can go and coach Brazil or Al Hilal? So it's like an interesting game. But at the end of it all, Ancelotti is going to leave. Whether he takes a Brazil job or takes Al Hilal or goes anywhere else, he's going to leave Real Madrid, because Real Madrid is prepared to get their guy. And I think that's the only thing that's kind of missing at the end of the day, because once they have to wait till Carlo Ancelotti to leave to make this deal to happen. But Xabi Alonso is at least the rumored guy that's going to take the job, and the reason why is because there is speculation that he is going to exercise his clause with Bayer Leverkusen. So when he signed his contract with Bayer Leverkusen, he had a clause on there where it allows him to leave Leverkusen in the in the event that Real Madrid calls him to offer him the job to be the next manager of Real Madrid, which obviously is happening now. Essentially, it's happening now. So Xabi Alonso wants. At the end of the day, I think it was very clear that he wants the Real Madrid job. Last year, he had the prime. He probably had an opportunity to go after Liverpool or Bayern Munich, and clearly it just wasn't enticing enough for him. So I don't think he ever wanted those two jobs. Clearly, he wanted Real Madrid. And this year, it is possible that he could get the Real Madrid job. It looks like more than likely he is the guy. He is expected to be the next boss of Real Madrid. And for you Bayer Leverkusen fans, if you're out there, apparently the strong favorite to get the Leverkusen job will be Xavi. So not Xavi Alonso, but Xavi, former Barcelona legend, Barcelona legend, and former Barca coach. Xavi is expected to be the next coach of Bayer Leverkusen, which will be very interesting how that all transpires with him over there. But yeah, like I said, it seems very likely that Xabi Alonso will be the next coach once all this whole thing gets figured out with Ancelotti and his contract situation. But as far as I know, Brazil was set to give him a deadline to have him join by August, by June. But because I think at this point Brazil really needs to get Ancelotti. I know that they have another coach in mind, but for a plan B in case Ancelotti doesn't take the job. But they are very dead set on getting Carlo Ancelotti. I think once again his connection to a lot of the Brazilian players, it's just once again his name alone. I think for Ancelotti to conclude his story, a man that has won everywhere as a coach, it would be very amazing for him to, submit his career as probably submit his career as the greatest coach of all time with winning a World Cup, on top of his resume, an already impressive resume as it is as a coach. But I mean, if all hell else, shoot, I mean, at the same time, $50 million a year, Jesus Christ, who wouldn't want to do that? Even if it's all halal, but I think he just wants to make sure that he's getting what he deserves, and probably $4 million extra. But the deal's gonna get done at some point. Real Madrid can't try to back out of this because they made it perfectly clear that they are moving on from him. They just don't want to fire him. They want him to leave. That's the funny part. But I think at the end of the day, someone's gonna bend, and I think it's gonna be Real Madrid because at the end of the day, they want to get Xabi Alonso. Xabi Alonso very much is set to be the guy. And I mean, you're going into a year where there's going to be a lot of changes with Real Madrid. Once again, this team, it's overwhelming is probably the best word to describe him, but also very much unbalanced is another word that I might use for Real Madrid this year. I think at the end of the day, also injuries just hurt them. Right? You lose Militao, Alaba wasn't available at the beginning, a very majority of this whole year. Rudiger is basically wrapped in tape now, wrapped in bubble wrap at this point. I believe he's basically done for the year now, but Asensio, he was a very good surprise, but I mean, at the end of the day, he's still just young and raw. But I can't wait to see his development goes. I think this kid's gonna be solid. He's gonna be very solid. I mean, I think he did a really good job this year. But yeah, defensively, you need to address things. I mean, unfortunately, Trent Alexander-Arnold is set to come to Real Madrid. I'm really hoping that something happens where he doesn't. But yeah, he seems very likely that's going to happen. Lucas Vazquez has to be out the door. It's going to be interesting though when you have Trent Alexander-Arnold and you have Dani Carvajal. Like, how do you make that work? I really don't want to see him play the sixth role at all. Like, I want. Period. I just don't want Trent Alexander-Arnold here. That's just me saying that because I'm not personally a fan of Trent Alexander-Arnold. But I mean, he could prove me wrong. It's happened before. But I think center back is gonna be very interesting. Like I said, David Alaba. I mean, I feel like Real Madrid should probably move on from. Like, look, to be honest, this isn't EA Sports FC. This isn't Football Manager. Like, you can't do all these changes. But like, I think center backs. Obviously, you probably want to move on from David Alaba. Rudiger, I think you can keep for another year. Just how much more can his body give? Maybe as a starter, his time as a starter is probably like near its tail end. But Eder Militao, I mean, if he stays healthy, he can be solid. I believe there's a rumor right now that Jonathan Tah could be um not going like because he was essentially going to move to Barcelona. But I mean, if Xabi Alonso comes to Real Madrid, maybe he is enticed to make this to like not sign the pre-agreement and go play for Xabi Alonso in Real Madrid. Um, that could be a possibility. It seems like that's a good strong possibility. Um, Once again, you have Marco Asensio. Um, I believe Real Madrid is in strong pursuit of the Dean. I believe his name. He's a Dutch player who he's a Dutch player who is Spanish descent, and he plays for Bournemouth right now. So as a matter of fact, he scored a goal against um Huijsen, Dean Huijsen. So he's on Real Madrid's radar. So that's another problem. So that's something to strengthen this back line a little bit. Left back, I mean, I think you might. I don't know if it's time to move on from Ferland Mendy. I don't know if people are set on Fran Garcia. I don't know if Trent Alexander-Arnold could play on the left. Um, but I think that left back spot might be something that needs to be addressed. I don't like like I was saying. I just don't want Trent Alexander-Arnold. I just don't. People could call me a hater, and I don't care. But I mean, that could be an interesting position there. Goalkeeper, I mean, you got Thibaut Courtois. He's not going anywhere. The midfield, I don't know. It'd be interesting. I mean, I think Tchouaméni is very much clear to be the playing in the sixth spot. It just depends how you feel about Camavinga. I like Camavinga. I would love to see him on the. I honestly, I'm intrigued to see him, Valverde, and Tchouaméni, like see how that three looks. I don't know what you do with like. Can Luka Modric? Do you re-sign Luka Modric for another year? And if so, can he be more off the bench kind of guy? Because I just don't know how much more he could give us, man. I really don't. Danny Ceballos is I think enough to be a good guy off the bench or a guy that you can plug in from match to match. Um, oh man, I forgot about Jude Bellingham. See that's the reason. Like I'm not entirely sure about this team, is because that's why I'm not sure about Camavinga's situation. Like I feel like this guy should be starting somewhere, but because then you also have Jude Bellingham in the midfield. So yeah, like a whole thing. I think there's some guys that just need to be moved on. Maybe it is Camavinga that needs to move on as well from the midfield. Um, Rodrigo, I don't know. Part of me hopes that like Xabi Alonso's like, no, I want to keep Rodrigo, but I think right now, especially with Arda Güler, like you need to keep that kid happy. He needs to be playing, and I think you can. I feel like you can get more money from Rodrigo than you can from Arda Güler, just because like he has like he has enough to like entice enough that you can get a little bit more off of him than Arda Güler, because he just really didn't play much this year, and it's not his fault. It's just that they never picked him to play. But from what is rumored, Arda Güler seems to be part of Xabi Alonso's plans. Also, Xabi Alonso wants to bring in Martin Zubimendi from Real Sociedad and Florian Wirtz from Bayer Leverkusen. Those are some players and Jonathan Tah is also another player that's rumored. It's gonna be really interesting what Real Madrid does this summer, like how they move on from certain players and who they bring in to help, make Vinicius and maybe Vinicius. I mean, I don't know. I hear the rumors every time for Saudi Arabia. I don't personally believe it, but you never know what's gonna happen. But Real Madrid's in a real interesting situation where you're gonna have a new coach, and you kind of have this new Galacticos, the third installment of Los Galacticos, and what is Perez, what does Florentino Perez have in mind for this version? And I think what is the tactics that we're gonna see from Xabi Alonso? And that's the other thing that I find interesting. Like, what is his tactics and what are we gonna see? Because if you're adding Florian Wirtz where's Jude Bellingham playing? Where's Valverde gonna play? Are you planning on keeping Camavinga? Are you planning on keeping Tchouaméni? Is Rodrigo part of your plans? Is Arda Güler really part of your plans? How are you gonna make Vinicius and Mbappe work in their best potential way possible? All these are questions that I am very much intrigued on how it's gonna happen, and hopefully we get those answers, and hopefully Xabi Alonso is the right guy to take Real Madrid to the next level. And I mean, it's Real Madrid. I mean, at the end of the day, like they have the resources. They're gonna always lure some of the best players in the world, and you're part of the El Clasico. Uh it's gonna be interesting what they do to make this team better. So yeah, I can't wait. I'm excited. I think Xabi, like, look, if I have to lose Carlo Ancelotti, I'm really happy it's Xabi Alonso. I mean, I would have been happy if it was Jurgen Klopp too, but I'm just more excited about Xabi Alonso. I think he is a really promising coach, and I think he's going to definitely be hopefully his chapter with Real Madrid is going to be a really special one under his regime. So I can't wait. I can't wait to see all that changes. Like it's gonna suck seeing certain players leave, but I think it's gonna be for the best. I think at all in all, because Barcelona is just gonna get better. That's just the God honest truth. They're just gonna keep getting better, and Real Madrid can't be slipping. So that's really the case, man. But all right, we're gonna take a break and then go right into previewing the quarterfinals for the 2025 Liga MX Clausura.
I'm a pupusa man myself. Better than tacos to me. I gotta go with them.
All right, guys. So what's funny was in this episode, this actually was gonna be in pieces, but because now, I guess some sort of silver lining, I really can't tell you. I'm still kind of pissed off about all this, but silver lining wise, we get to talk about Liga MX. That's right. The play-in round has been completed, and we got some matches to talk about. We'll start things off with the first play-in game between 7th place Pachuca taking on 8th place Monterrey, which was a 2-1 victory for Pachuca. They had 55% of the possession. They also outshot Monterrey 22-13, 8 shots on target to Monterrey's 5. The first goal came from Monterrey from Beterame in the 51st minute. And then Pachuca sealed it in the 80th minute with a goal from Gabriel in the 82nd and a goal from Rodon in the 87-minute mark. So 7th place Pachuca will be facing 2nd place Club America, meaning that Monterrey will have to face the winner between Juarez and Pumas. And in that game, Pumas defeats Juarez 1-1, 2-1 in penalties. I feel like weather was a factor in this game, or just from what I saw, it was pretty muggy, pretty hard. Like it was a weird sight. But anyways, the match goes on. But Juarez had 69% of the possession. Very nice. Juarez also outshot Pumas 11-7. 4 shots to Pumas, 1 shot on target. But that's all they needed because they got the goal. Another thing, so the goals here came in the 16-minute mark and Puma started the goal scoring with a goal by Martinez from the Pumas in the 16-minute mark. And then Juarez responded in the 20th minute with a goal from Madsen. There was some red cards in this game. We actually a total of 3 red cards in this game. Pumas having the first red card, which was from Martinez in the 35th minute mark. Yes, that's right. The guy that scored the goal also got a red card. So that's as Liga MX. This is prime Liga MX. This is as Liga MX as it gets when it comes to it. To score a goal and then follow it up with a red card. This ain't Liga MX, and I don't know what is. But the other red cards came also, one in stoppage time from Juarez, from Garcia, and the other one came in extra time by Villalpando in the 102nd minute mark. So lots of dramatics on this part, but yes, they went to penalties. They won 2-1. A lot of misses, but it just happens, man. Sometimes 2-1. It's not always a guarantee. Penalties are not guarantees in this world. There's a lot of factors go into that. But yes, 10th place Pumas are moving on to take on 8th place Monterrey to see who gets the final spot in the playoffs, which obviously that means 9th place Juarez is out, which is kind of funny because this is actually how I predicted this was going to go. So The final playing game was 8th place Monterrey taking on 10th place Pumas, which was a victory for Monterrey, a 2-0 victory for Monterrey. Monterrey had 63% of the possession. Monterrey also outshot Pumas 15-6. 5 shots on target to Pumas 2 shots on target. So some improvement there, but I think this is what we kind of expected from Pumas. Is just they're just not a goal scoring team. That they're not going to put up a lot of shots, and I think that's kind of what was their downfall for this year. But the goals did come from Berterame in the 58th minute mark and by Diosa in the 89th minute. If you're Monterrey right now, you should be feeling really good knowing that Berterame is coming in form, is coming into this to their well, we'll get there. But there's some form there. But yeah, 10th place Pumas is out, and that means 8th place Monterrey will face Toluca in the quarterfinals, which will go right into the quarterfinals. We have first place Toluca taking on 8th place Monterrey. Toluca this year was the best scoring team with 41 goals, also allowed 22 goals, giving them a goal differential of 19. So really not bad at all. Not only were they scoring goals, but they were doing fairly well to hold them off, hold the other teams from putting them in the back of the net. So I think this is kind of what Toluca's been hoping for. They have been going all out, going big on some of their spending have been very active with player acquisitions. Obviously, it goes all the way back to the likes of getting Marcelo Ruiz from Tijuana, getting Volpi, the Brazilian goalkeeper. And then obviously, I think you get a guy like Paulinho, big goal scorer, and for this team as part of the leading goal scorer back-to-back seasons where he is the leading goal scorer in Liga MX. And I think also this what was really strong, a great pickup for them was bringing back Vega after he was let go from Chivas, to bring him back to the team where he started, giving him his boost. And he's been playing very well for Toluca. And I think the big acquisition from this season, specifically the Clausura season, was getting Ache. I think that was a big addition to them. Now, I'm not saying that he's starting every game. He does come off the bench a few times, but he does start also as well. I think that was a good locker room presence. I think one of the things that I still commend Hector Herrera for when he came to the Dynamo was how he was such a raw guy for the locker room. Players just gravitated to him. He was just overall just a great person to be around, and it was infectious, and he got the team to build camaraderie. And I think that's one of a strong and very valuable thing in a locker room. And I think that's what Ache brought. It's just a straight glue guy, a guy that you're going to fight for. And I think that's what we're seeing from this Toluca team. And they're playing great. Obviously, the thing is with Toluca they've been close, but no cigar. Is this going to be the season where they finally beat those demons and finally lift a trophy after so many years? If they do, it's going to be crazy. But they got to go against Monterrey, who has scored 32 goals this season, have allowed 23, giving them a goal differential of 9. I also want to point out that, once again, Berterame, he is now going back-to-back games with scoring a goal. That's got to take into factor for this team. Defensively, probably on par with Toluca, so that's an interesting part. It's going to really go down to the goal scoring. And just as well, just obviously clearly Toluca is a great goal scoring team. Monterrey is no slouch either. They're going to be able to compete with this. This is going to be a really good matchup, I think, for Toluca to really solidify themselves as a true title contender in Liga MX. They have to overcome Monterrey. Monterrey is a team that is very well known in Liga MX for going far in tournaments as well. So I think that this is going to be a really good test, a really good matchup for Toluca to see if they're legit or not. Because if they can beat Monterrey, I think that adds more confidence to them moving on to the next rounds. And if Monterrey wins, it just goes back to the never-ending painful saga for Toluca, for them once again having to figure out what they need, what's missing on this team. And honestly, there's not much really missing to this team. This team is doing really well. I think they brought on the right coach with Antonio Mohamed. This team is really solid. But on the flip side, Monterrey is no slouch either. The injury of Sergio Ramos is kind of concerning, but at the same time, I don't think that's as concerning as Sergio Canales. He did not play in the last game. I'm wondering if they're just trying to rotate him, trying to rest him. I don't know what was the story there, but it is something to point out. But I think Sergio Canales is a very important player for Toluca. Let me just dang. I should have probably figured this out ahead of time, but it's okay. Players mess up. Let's see. Liga MX. There we go. Also important thing to note is Toluca hasn't lost a game in 7 matches. So Ramos is still doubtful with an injury, so we should be seeing Sergio Canales. So yeah. So it'll be a really interesting matchup for that one. I think that this is going to be a good test for Toluca. If Toluca can overcome it, they're going to definitely be riding high going into the next round. And I'm going to predict Toluca. I think Toluca can get it done. I think the injuries are going to be a factor for Monterrey. I think you also are going to be without Salcedo. So we'll see if Toluca can finally overcome their woes, because obviously last year, I think last season in the Apertura, they were the 2nd seed and got eliminated by America, who obviously then went on to win their 3-peat. So we'll see what happens, man. But Toluca, I'm picking them. I'm going with them, hoping they end up winning the whole thing. I'm just gonna be honest with you. The next matchup is Club America, the team that did eliminate Toluca in the Apertura. They are 2nd place this year. They're taking on 7th place Pachuca, and honestly, a very interesting matchup. I think this is going to be a good one. Club America has scored 34 goals this year, and also was the best defense this season with 10 goals allowed this season, giving them a goal differential of 24. Pachuca scoring 29 goals and giving up 23 goals, giving them a goal differential of 6. Yeah, so Pachuca, they're not that far away defensively wise. I think it's harder because Club America has just been very stingy, has been very solid. They had just been a unit. Obviously, they want the 4-peat. They want to be historical. This team is historical in all retrospect. I think this is going to be a big task, but I think Pachuca probably has the team that can do it. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I'm actually picking Club America, but I think Pachuca will be a very big, will be a force to reckon with against Club America. I think this is going to be a very interesting matchup. The question will be how well can Club America prepare against Rondon? I think that's going to be. Excuse me, let me drink some water. It's an interesting matchup. I think that's going to be where everyone's going to be watching. Is that one right there? Is Club America's defense versus Rondon and the attack that Pachuca has to offer. I will say though, once again, I think Pachuca isn't bad isn't terrible defensively. It's just hard when you're comparing it to the best defense in Liga MX this season. So, but I'm going to pick Club America. I kind of hate that I'm kind of being boring right now with these picks, but I gotta pick defense on this one. So that's where I'm going with. Then the next matchup is 3rd place Cruz Azul versus 6th place Club León. Cruz Azul has scored 26 goals this season, have allowed 16 goals. They are the 3rd best defensive team in this playoff format, in this playoff group, with having goal differential 24. Vicente Sanchez, man, he has this team flowing, and I think that a very good defense, able to put goals in the back of net, which is why they are where they are in Liga MX. Now, in León, on the other hand, they have scored 24 goals this season, have given up 21 goals, giving them a goal differential of 3. Wait a minute. Okay, the goal differential for Cruz Azul is 10. Yikes. My bad. Players fuck up. Sorry, Kelsey. Sorry for cussing. 10 goal differential. But yes, 26 goals, 16 goals allowed, 10 goal differential. Now, Club León, on the other hand, has scored 24 goals, have given up 21 goals, giving them a goal differential of 3. This is the thing that's going to be important to me will be Cruz Azul's defense. Not necessarily, obviously, still 26 goals is still in a span of 18 games is still pretty good. And León, they're not that far away, but Cruz Azul, can they continue to be sturdy on defense? Can they put one in the back of the net when needed? And I think that that's what's going to favor Cruz Azul in this matchup. On the other hand, Club Leon has names. Maybe not the best defensive team, and not probably not up there when it comes to goal scoring, but they have the names, right? James Rodriguez, one of the best tournament players that I've seen, given that's Colombia, but still, the guy can play in tournaments. The guy can come up big in big moments. So I think that that's important. I think Club Leon right now is just really pissed off. If you're Club Leon, they have like a massive chip on their shoulder, right? They just got removed. As a matter of fact, it has been confirmed as of today, as of this recording, when we're recording this on Tuesday. It has been confirmed that Leon is not going to get their approval to return to Club World Cup once again because of multi-ownership, because they're also part of the Pachuca group. That is the reason why they cannot compete. So they are not going to be in it. The winners, the team that gets decided is going to be in a matchup between LAFC, the team that they beat in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and America, which in CONCACAF rankings, competitive coefficient, I guess you can say, they are rated as the best team in all of CONCACAF. So, yes, Club Leon has such a massive chip on their shoulder. I think that that's a big factor to follow into this game, because that changes everything to me. I think that that really changes everything to me. They are pissed off. They hate everybody, and they're gonna make sure that they have a statement performance to make it be clear we're no one's slouch. And because of that, I'm picking Club Leon to beat Cruz Azul. I'm sorry. I think that there's a massive chip on their shoulder. I think they're in this first leg, hopefully, in this first leg, they're going to make a massive statement where Cruz Azul maybe in that second leg is just not going to be able to live up to it, which I hope not. I hope it stays competitive. I hope all these matches in the first leg have it that where the second leg is going to be competitive. But I'm feeling Club Leon. I think that there's a dog mentality amongst this group that they just feel wronged, and they did get wronged. They did win the Champions Cup. They did what they were supposed to do to make it to the FIFA Club World Cup, and FIFA was just like, no, because you're also owned by another team that's in the tournament, because Pachuca is also competing in it. So yeah, if I'm Club Leon, I'm pretty pissed off. So we'll see what happens. I'm picking Club Leon. I'm sorry, Cruz Azul fans, but I know your team's really good, but it's the unfortunate effect with Leon, and I might be wrong. I just might be wrong. And then the final matchup is fourth place Tigres taking on fifth place Necaxa. Normally, when you have the fourth and fifth place matchup, it should be the most tightly contested game. We'll see. But Tigres, they scored 24 goals this season. They have allowed 14 goals, so they're the second best defense in this group in Liga MX. They also have a goal differential of 10 goals. Now, Necaxa, on the other hand, have scored 36 goals. As a matter of fact, that makes them the second best goal scoring team. The second best goal scoring team. Fun fact: the third best goal scoring team is Monterrey, who Toluca is facing. But 36 goals this season, 29 goals allowed. So defensively, not the best, giving them a 7-goal differential. This is where is the defense going to be able to withstand this Necaxa attack? Necaxa is an interesting story, right? I mean, going back to the early days of Insert Name FC, we talked about how, people like Eva Longoria, Justin Verlander, Kate Upton, which, I mean, they're married together, so kind of double duo right there. Mesut Özil, I think it was, I don't remember who was the fourth name. It's a football player, I think, an American football player. I just don't remember the guy's name now, but and then recently they got Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds in the mix now too. So they also added the Wrexham boys into this mixture for Necaxa. Now, do I know what they did? No. I mean, obviously, maybe invest some money, maybe try to change the culture there. I mean, I know Eva Longoria does go to matches for Necaxa. So, yeah, I mean, I mean, this team used to be pretty low. I mean, they're not, fifth place is not a bad place from where they were a few years ago. But they can score goals. That is for a fact. They can score goals. They just maybe on the defensive side might be their weaker spot. But on the other hand, Tigres, they can defend. They don't really score a lot of goals, but I mean, 24 goals still is a pretty good, decent amount. Like it's not terrible, but the defense is definitely what clicks for Tigres. I think that's an important factor into this. Can Tigres? I think in the event if it does become a shootout, can Tigres compete? And I think so. Yes, I think Tigres does have very much a team that can compete. They have the names as well. Gignac, Marcelo Flores, Diego Lainez. A lot of guys that have a lot of experience in this tournament. Maybe a little bit older, but still a lot of experience and knows how to compete in this tournament. Necaxa, this is still fairly new for them. I think experience does play a factor in them, but can they score goals? Yes, they can. The question is, can they stop some goals from entering their net? And I think that's going to be an important factor. I think it's still too early for Necaxa. I think that's really what it is. It is too early for them. So I'm going to pick Tigres. So at least my prediction. So what I'm predicting, and obviously this could age super poorly. I have Toluca, Club America, Club Leon, and Tigres. Though I will be pulling for Necaxa. I think that's a really cool story. Yes, I'm kind of simping for Eva Longoria. Hate me if you want, but it is what it is. But all right, guys, that's Liga MX. We're gonna go ahead and segue right into Players of the Week.
Fight and win! All right, so I was actually listening to the audio from when I did this segment as well, and it also sounded like complete total ass. So I'm redoing this one as well since I'm already here. But Players of the Week is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is an amazing ticketing site app, depending on how you use it. But it's really great. I use it a lot for a lot of the live events that I attend to when it comes to concerts, all the way to sporting events. SeatGeek has you covered. It has a really easy grading system using colors and numbers. If it is really low and super red, that means whoever's trying to sell you these tickets are not giving you a great deal. Keep scrolling. You're going to find a better deal. If it's super high and very green, that means for that price, for these seats, you're going to enjoy your event. Go ahead and buy these tickets. We love the simplicity of SeatGeek. And if you guys aren't sold just yet, if you guys use the code BellyUpSports for first-time users only, you'll save $20 off your first purchase. Once again, use the code BellyUpSports. Save yourself $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets. My player of the week is Arda Güler, who scored a goal and assist in Real Madrid's 3-2 win against Celta Vigo. Hopefully that means something to me, especially this weekend. And Edwards' player of the week is Serhou Guiarsi, who scored 2 goals in Borussia Dortmund's 4-0 win against Wolfsburg. So a strong performances from these two men. Congratulations, Arda Güler and Serhou Guiarsi, for being our players of the week. Once again, use that code BellyUpSports at SeatGeek.com. Use that code BellyUpSports. Save yourselves $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek.com. SeatGeek, life's an event. We have the tickets. Games to watch this weekend. Obviously, Liga MX playoffs, the second legs of Liga MX. Go ahead and watch them. Get ready for all the drama that happens in these second legs. Get ready for them. Speaking of drama, we got Benfica versus Sporting in the Portuguese League. It should be a really juicy matchup between two teams that have a lot of implications going on over there. And then we have Feyenoord versus PSV in the Netherlands. Also, a lot of juiciness in that matchup as well. And then we're not even done yet because Belgium has Racing Genk taking on Club Brugge, a really interesting matchup. If you guys aren't familiar with the Belgium League, those are two really good teams over there. Go ahead and check it out. See what the quality has over in Belgium for you. In Ligue 1, we got Monaco versus Lyon and Stade Rennais versus Nice. Once again, it's all about positioning now in Ligue 1. Bundesliga. Once again, congratulations to Harry Kane for finally winning a trophy. Bayern Munich have secured another Bundesliga title. Once again, go to our merchandise store. Go ahead and buy our Harry Kane shirt, man. Go ahead and celebrate the man's big moment. And then also we have Bayer Leverkusen versus Borussia Dortmund. Once again, positioning is going to be important here. In the Serie A, we got AC Milan versus Bologna and Lazio versus Juventus. And La Liga, Atletico Madrid versus Real Sociedad, and El Clásico, Barcelona versus Real Madrid, is going to be very juicy, especially off of this Inter Milan elimination for Barcelona. Hopefully, they're on some even more tired legs, and hopefully that bodes well for Real Madrid. Though I don't know, they might be pissed off, so we'll see what happens though. But along with that, this is also the final match of the jersey bet table that me, Edward, and Spencer are all in. Obviously, if you guys don't know, the jersey bet is essentially me, Edward, and Spencer. We put up our fandoms on the line. Edward supports Barcelona and Manchester United. I support Arsenal and Real Madrid. And Spencer likes Manchester City and Atletico Madrid. So we are whenever our teams face off against each other, obviously Premier League and La Liga, when they face each other, we total the wins and losses, and the losers have to get a jersey for the winner. Obviously combined. We're not gonna kill each other financially for this, but it has something at stake. But as of right now, Spencer is eliminated, but me and Edward are going at it. And as a matter of fact, whoever wins this El Clásico wins the league. So we'll see what happens there. In the event of a tie, we will go into trophy count. And sorry for yawning again. Not really feeling confident of that part, but we'll see what happens, man. But yeah, El Clásico this weekend, really, really juicy one. A lot at stake. Can Barcelona get the sweep, and can Real Madrid finally get one over? And I mean, if they get this one over Barcelona, a lot of implications are happening at this point, because at that point the point difference is 1 point, and obviously with some other outside factors, Real Madrid must win out their final matches, but Barcelona, one slip up and Real Madrid could be winning La Liga. So it is going to be a very all eyes to see in La Liga. In the Premier League, we got AFC Bournemouth taking on Aston Villa and Newcastle United taking on Chelsea. Once again, it's all about positioning. As a matter of fact, I think Serie A and La Liga are the only ones that still haven't crowned the champion as far as the Power 5 goes. So still a lot to be played for despite that. But yes, those are not all the matches that are happening this weekend. But if you guys want a good beginner's guide, I think we gave you guys some good matches for that. So we're going to go ahead, take a final break, and then we'll wrap this show up in a pretty little bow for you.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I want to give a shout out to the Belly Up Sports, the Belly Up Sports. If you guys check out their website, bellyupsports.com, it is up and running. Go ahead and check out all the great content that's being dropped, all the great articles that are being written. Obviously, right now here in American sports, you got the NBA playoffs, you got NHL playoffs, you got post NFL draft discussions. I'm sure that's thrilling in any facet of the world. Obviously, I guess, well, that's the baseball. Obviously, baseball is also going on as well. So if you guys want to know more about American sports here and the opinions of some great writers and content creators, well, check them out, bellyupsports.com. Also, follow them on Instagram and X at bellyupsports, so you're knowing what's going on, especially this really cool segment that has now been going on that me and Kelsey came up with. We thought it was going to be a really cool way to integrate everybody, get everybody to learn each other's flow and how they do with hosting or just punditry or all that stuff. I thought it was really cool. The bonus round segment, which was really cool. I had a lot of fun recording with Vince Stover and Mr. McCarthy, and obviously Kelsey. Great job hosting it. But yeah, it's a really cool thing. Check out their YouTube channel once again, bellyupsports.com. Belly Up Sports on YouTube, and just see all the great stuff that's being dropped there. A lot of great podcasts also available at Belly Up, Corner Booth Pod, High Low Sports with Kelsey over there, the Stove Report with Vince Stover, No credentials required with Mr. Ryan McCarthy. Lots of great stuff. Go ahead and check it out, man. Also, Goals TV, that's another way you can find us, is Goals TV, GOZ.TV. Dude, if you guys are looking for soccer content here in the US, there it is. Go look at it, see all the great content that's being made. So much great content, man. I feel like when I'm on Goals TV, I don't know. I feel like time flies because of just how much content I'm absorbing from there. Obviously you got Eric Winaldo with Unleash. Check it out. Great stuff, man. So check them out. Goals TV, GOZ.TV. Also follow them on Instagram at goals.tv, GOZ.TV, at goals.tv on Instagram. And then on the X it's goals_TV, GOZ_TV, goals_underscore TV. So you can see what's going on there. Now, last but not least, the most important piece of Insert Name FC, and that's Roosevelt Spencer. He is the namesake of the Roosevelt Spencer's Player of the Year Award. We love Spencer so much. We care about him. Everything about him we love. And his beat making is phenomenal. Just an extra, it's like the cherry on top of who is Roosevelt Spencer. If you guys hear the beats, here's the intros and outros for this podcast, and you think, wow, that sounds great, I need some of this. Well, find him on Instagram at That Guy Dope. Once again, at That Guy Dope, just how it sounds. Just there's no special wording, lettering, or anything like that. It's That Guy Dope, just all in one. Follow him on Instagram. Shoot him a message if you guys need some beat work done. Hit him up. He will take great care of you because he always does with us. And if you guys tell him, hey, Insert Name FC sent us, I'm sure he's gonna take extra more care of you. So we guarantee it. But with all that being said, man, before we end this, man, even though I wasn't necessarily in the greatest of moods of having to re-record all this, I will say though, consolation prize, Barcelona did get eliminated by Inter Milan today. So, as I'm recording this, which is Tuesday. So Inter Milan did eliminate Barcelona, which I am very happy. Should I be wanting La Liga being represented? Sure, but not Barcelona. So it's just so, even though Barcelona has been a great team, it's been a great team to follow, great team to watch, and all those things, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. Sorry, I can't. I really cannot do it. Cannot do it. But it's been a fun ride. But Inter Milan, and by the way, what a second leg, what a semifinal matchup between them. I told y'all that Inter Milan will be no slouch, and wow, did they perform. So they are going to the Champions League. Obviously, the following day we'll find out who's going to be joining them in the Champions League final. Would it be Arsenal or PSG? We'll find out later on. And obviously next episode we'll recap the semifinals of Champions League, Europa League, and Europa Conference League. So we'll have that all done so you guys know who's going to be in the finals of those competitions as well. So lots to talk about. Can't wait. So with all that being said, and also, I'm sorry, I can't believe I forgot this because I shouldn't forget about this. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. I hope you guys if you guys haven't thought about your moms, here is the message right now. Go call your mom. Tell your mom, hey mom, I love you. Happy Mother's Day. Because you know what? Life is really fast. Life goes by fast. And you never know when when it's gonna be the last moment with that person. Not trying to dim things down, but this isn't obviously it's an amazing weekend where we can get to, if obviously every day should be Mother's Day, but this is a day where we can really cherish our mothers a little bit more. So go to mom, go to your wife. She's a mom. I hope she's a mom. Hey, girlfriends are moms too. Hey, ain't no shame in it. Life, it goes. Grandmothers as well. They're moms in also. So a grander of a mother as well. So this is your time. This is your message. If you guys haven't done so, give your moms a call. Don't text her. Don't do that. Don't do that. Stop it. Stop you texting. No, don't text your mother. Call her. As better yet, you better drive up to your mom's house right now. Maybe unless she lives in another state or in another city, then just take a phone call will do. But take the time, call your mom, let them know that you love them, thank them for everything they've done for you. For some of us, that's all we had. So, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers, and hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope you guys get amazing gifts. Hope you guys have so many flowers that you don't know what to do with it. So enjoy that, man. Enjoy it this weekend. And obviously El Clasico is also this weekend, so I'm sure that's something I'm looking forward to. Hopefully it ends with a Real Madrid win, because also that means I win the jersey bet. But now, with all that being said, happy Mother's Day, and thank you so much for listening. Catch us next week, where we're going to talk about some European competitions. Take care, guys.